Yesterday we talked about how the devil will ruin your resolutions by making you think that you need to do too much too fast. This is called immoderate zeal by the fathers. And if you've passed the first test and you're not bound to immoderate zeal and you're committed to going slowly and taking it step by step, the next thing the devil will do is try to make you focus on something other than the three pillars of the spiritual life for beginners. These three pillars are prayer, predominant fault, and spiritual reading. The spiritual life is a war, and if you win the war, you go to heaven. So these three pillars are the three fronts of the war, the three battles, the three areas that you need to wage war with the devil in order to win the war. Prayer, predominant fault, spiritual reading. So these are the things that you should be doing every single day. So prayer, time for prayer, and a time for spiritual reading. And then throughout the whole day, focusing on your predominant fault. Now we're going to talk about all three of these things in detail. But the first thing to understand is that the devil wants you to focus on anything but these three things, which means that he can distract you and make you think that you need to spend hours in intellectual study of the faith, or in studying apparitions, or some other thing. Now, these things are good in themselves, but they need to be properly ordered. We need to be focusing on the three fronts of the war. If we're focused on something else to the neglect of the three fronts, then the war starts to the enemy takes advantage of us. So if we are intellectually studying the faith or anything of this nature, we need to subordinate that to these three pillars. So the devil will even take these good intentions and he'll take these good things to try to disorder our spiritual life. But those things are the three fronts. So prayer, predominant fault, and spiritual reading. So prayer is, now one other point here first before we go into that, and that is prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. Now those are like the three weapons that you take into those battles, into those three fronts. So we're going to talk about those in detail as well. Now, prayer considered as a weapon and prayer considered as a front are slightly different. But prayer is the most important of all three because prayer is the life of heaven. The life of the angels is one of humble prayer. And they're not reading spiritual books, neither are the saints. They're not working on spiritual books or overcoming their predominant fault. They're praying. Their eternity is an eternity of humble praise. And so prayer then is the most important. So that is the one that the devil is most opposed of. So even if he can get you to stop praying, he'll even make you read too many spiritual books or be too disorderly focused in a disorderly way with working on your predominant fault. So when the time of prayer comes, he'll even try to convince you that you need to go to confession, or you need to stop praying, you need to go preach the gospel, you need to stop praying, you need to go do this good thing, whatever it is. He'll do anything he can to get you to stop praying. That is the most hateful thing to the devil, is prayer. And why does the devil hate us so much? And it's because he is consumed with envy. When he chose pride, all of him and his fallen angels lost all their places in the hierarchy of heaven. And they fell and they were cast down. And then God appointed to the elect souls, all of us men, he appointed for us all of their places that they lost. So the devil and his fallen angels are consumed with envy. And that's why they hate us so much. They are consumed with envy because they want to be prideful and have their own world and their own rule over themselves. And yet they want these places in heaven that they lost. So prayer is the most important of the three pillars, but there is also spiritual reading and the predominant fault. And we're going to talk all about those in detail. But think about this. The second week of February is the beginning of Septuagesima. That's pre-Lent, if you're not familiar. 3 weeks of pre-Lent, and then Lent begins, I believe it's the first week of March. So what we have here, we have a nice pre-Lent, starting with the new year, going through Epiphany Tide. So think about these things right now. I'm going to link, if you want to go deeper right now, there's a link I'll have in the show notes to a series of talks by Father Ripperger that goes through these 3 pillars. And considering what we talked about yesterday in terms of resolutions, think about what things you need to start doing to get your spiritual life back on track so that you can begin Septuagesima and head into Lent profitably. And the most important thing is to get the basics down. Don't go too fast. Start small. Get a habit going. And think about the 3 pillars: prayer, spiritual life, predominant fault. We'll talk about all those in the future. God bless. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.